Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's community meeting. Thank you for making it out. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we go ahead and get started. Tonight's meeting will be recorded and publicly available on YouTube later. There are no AI bots allowed into this meeting. If they are in the meeting, we will be exiting them. Um, and for security issues, please do not put any of your personal information, email addresses into the chat because this meeting is going to be publicly available and recorded. Um, and before we start, I'm gonna go ahead and read the notice to paid representatives. If you are compensated to monitor, attend, or speak at this meeting, city law may require you to register as a lobbyist and report your activity. See Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 48.01 at SEC. More information is available at ethics.lacity.org/lobbying. For assistance, please contact the Ethics Commission at 213-978-1960 or ethics.commission@lacity.org.
Aviso para representantes pagados. Si recibe compensación por monitorear, asistir o hablar en esta reunión, la ley de la ciudad puede exigirle que se registre como cabildero o cabildera, lobbyist, e informe su actividad. Favor de referirse al Los Angeles Municipal Code, sección 48.01, etc. Más información disponible en ethics.lacity.org línea inclinada lobbying. Para asistencia, contacte a la Comisión de Ética al número 213-978-1960 o ethics.commission@lacity.org. Yes. Before we start, I'd also like to announce that there are closed captioning and Spanish interpretation options available to participants. For closed captioning in English, you can select the CC symbol at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom menu. For Spanish interpretation, you can select the globe symbol, also found at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom menu, which will take you to the room with the interpreters. Closed captioning in Spanish is also available there. If you do not see the CC or globe symbols in your Zoom menu, please look for it in the submenu where it says More with the three dots. Los participantes tienen a su disposición subtítulos e interpretación en español. Para subtítulos en inglés, puedes seleccionar el símbolo CC en la parte inferior de la pantalla en el menú de Zoom. Para interpretación en español, puedes seleccionar el símbolo del globo también en la parte inferior de la pantalla que le llevará a la sala con los intérpretes. Ahí también están disponibles los subtítulos en español. Si no ve el símbolo CC o el globo en el menú de Zoom, búsquelo en el submenú con la palabra en inglés More, M-O-R-E, con los tres puntos. Para repetir, los participantes tienen a su disposición subtítulos e interpretación en español. Para subtítulos en inglés, puedes seleccionar el símbolo CC en la parte inferior de la pantalla en el menú de Zoom. Para interpretación en español, puedes seleccionar el símbolo del globo también en la parte inferior de la pantalla que le llevará a la sala con los intérpretes. Ahí también están disponibles los subtítulos en español. Si no ve el símbolo CC o el globo en el menú de Zoom, búsquelo en el submenú con la palabra en inglés More, M-O-R-E, con los tres puntos. So now I'll give a couple of moments for folks to find the closed captioning and interpretation room. I'd also like to share that links to CIFD's mailing list and social media pages will be shared in the chat section of the Zoom presentation. We'll also hold a question and answer session after the presentation. So please put the questions in the general chat that is directed to everyone and not just to an individual. I'll now hand it over to my colleague, Rebecca Ronquillo, Chief Management Analyst with the Community Investment for Families Department.
Thank you, Lauro. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We've got a presentation that's packed with information, and we do appreciate the time you've taken from your busy schedule and your evening to share with us. We want to get you in and out within the hour. I do want to let you all know that we will be covering information at a high level, and so we'll try our best to answer any questions you might have as we progress through the slide deck. We do want to answer these here in real time, but we do reserve the right to come back to you if we have to do some research or get some clarification on any question you might have. So please note that. I will go over in a few moments the agenda for the evening. And as Lauro mentioned, we will take questions at the bottom of the presentation. We do want to get through this information and then give everybody that opportunity, that maximum time at the end to try to cover all your questions, if not all of them in their totality. So with that, I do want to get to the next slide so we can go over our agenda. So we'll go over what the consolidated plan is. I do see a couple of familiar names. So some of this will be familiar to some of you. I do also see some names in our participant list from operators or partners out in the field that are familiar with CDBG from a contractor perspective. So I'm glad to see you all here as well. We'll also go over how the consolidated plan is formed. We are required by HUD to solicit feedback from the community. The community means any number of stakeholders, from beneficiaries at the client level to operators or service provider partners out in the field, as well as sister departments within the city family that also work hand in hand with us to make sure that our CDBG investments are going and making the maximum impact out in the community. We'll also spend a little bit of time talking over what CDBG, or the Community Development Block Fund, or grant rather, has accomplished over its 50+ year history. It is in fact true that we are in the 51st year of this grant's existence. So there's a long tail of history behind us as it relates to CDBG. We'll go over very briefly what we're anticipating in terms of a budget or the grant allocation for next year. And as I mentioned a few moments ago, we'll dedicate some time for questions and answers. And then lastly, I'll put in a plug for our community needs survey. That survey forms part of our larger effort to get that community feedback that we are required by HUD to solicit and to incorporate into the plan. I'll hand it off to my colleague now. I believe it's Bernard that's going to go over some other information that we talked about in the agenda. Thank you so much. Laura, I believe you're muted. I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. It's actually, I will be going over this section of the presentation. And to formally introduce myself, my name is Lauro Cons, Senior Management Analyst with the Community Investment for Families Department. So to start my section off, I'll be going over this slide. What is the Consolidated Plan, also known as the CON Plan? So some of you have probably heard of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. The grant funds come from HUD, and the purpose of these funds is to address the housing and community needs of residents with low to moderate income through a variety of programs and projects. HUD awards the funds to the City of LA, and the mayor and city council have the final decision on how the funding is used. The Community Investment for Families Department, or CIFD, prepares and submits the plan to HUD, describing how the funds will be used, using information from various sources, including what the mayor and council decide. There are 4 grants covered in the plan. That is why it's called consolidated. CIFD is the administrator of the funds on behalf of the city. This includes ensuring that federal requirements are met, as well as organizing meetings like this one to get public input. The funds are distributed to various organizations and agencies throughout the city to support services, programs, housing, and other building improvements in various neighborhoods to benefit you. Next slide, please. So we're often asked about these very important aspects of your neighborhood and community life: public transportation, police, and schools. And while we recognize these are very important to your community, they are not funded by the federal grants we will be talking about today. Next slide, please. As we said, there are 4 grants in the consolidated plan. First, the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, is the largest, oldest, and most flexible of the 4 grants. Next, we have the Home Investment Partnership Program, also known as HOME, is specifically for affordable housing, primarily to create and build more affordable housing units. The Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG, is specifically to support persons experiencing homelessness or those who are at risk of becoming homeless. Lastly, but not least, we have the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, also known as HOPWA, which is specifically for housing and supportive services that provide and maintain stable housing for persons living with an HIV/AIDS diagnosis and have a low income. HOPWA is operated for the entire county of Los Angeles. Together, all these grants form the consolidated plan. Next slide, please. So each grant within the CON plan has specific eligibility requirements, and I'll go over those. So first, we have the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, which supports development activities to build stronger communities. Examples of eligible activities are housing preservation, other property improvements, public facilities, public services, and economic development. Next, with the Home Investment Partnerships, that supports increased home ownership and affordable housing. Eligible activities include affordable housing construction, housing rehabilitation, site acquisition and preparation, home buyer assistance, and rental assistance. Next, for the Emergency Solutions Grant, that assists those experiencing a housing or homelessness to quickly regain stability. And those eligible activities are street outreach, emergency shelter, rapid rehousing assistance, and the Homeless Management Information Systems, also known as HMIS. Next, the Housing Opportunity for Persons with AIDS. That provides housing and services to low-income persons with HIV or AIDS, and those eligible activities are rental assistance, case management, supportive services, operation costs, and affordable housing construction. Next slide, please. So every 5 years, a city releases a 5-year consolidated plan, and PY 52 marks year 4 of the current 5-year cycle. For every annual plan, the city awards funding to programs and projects that align with these 5 goals. First, to prevent and reduce homelessness. This includes services such as interim housing, transitional housing, case management, supportive services, eviction prevention, housing navigation, and rental assistance to persons who are unhoused or at risk of becoming unhoused. Next, to develop and preserve affordable housing. This supports the development, acquisition, and preservation of affordable housing for unhoused residents, persons living with a disability, and other low-income residents. Funds may also finance rehabilitation, assistance for first-time homebuyers, and the acquisition and development of new affordable rental housing or permanent supportive housing. Third, to significantly reduce poverty. This helps residents with low incomes to stabilize economically and avoid displacement. It supports family economic stabilization by providing services to improve employment, income, financial empowerment, asset development, housing stability, and academic achievement. Fourth, to support the local economy. These funds are used to improve local economic conditions and increase opportunities for low-income residents to obtain and retain jobs, help businesses thrive and succeed, and provide essential goods and services to neighborhoods lacking them. And last but not least, to stabilize neighborhoods. These funds will stabilize and revitalize neighborhoods by improving public facilities and infrastructure to increase low-income Angelenos' access to opportunities for academic achievement, employment, recreation, and social services. Next slide, please. So next I'll go over the 5 stages in the process for funding projects. First is community input. The first stage is gathering data from anyone who lives, works, goes to school, conducts business, or otherwise considers themselves a member of the city of Los Angeles. Next is planning, and this planning process includes city staff evaluating ongoing projects and programs for funding renewal. This includes evaluating the prior year's list of funded projects for additional funding. The city does fund a mixture of ongoing programs that require additional funding on an annual basis, such as the Family Source Centers or housing opportunities for persons with AIDS, but also evaluates if there are funds to allocate to new projects. And funding for public services is limited to 15% of the grant. Applications. After coordinating with the city council and city departments, the city determines if there are funds available for new projects and opens an application period for city departments and nonprofit entities to request CDBG funds for eligible projects. Projects are evaluated and selected based on eligibility, available funding, ability to draw down funds in a timely manner, and alignment with CONPLAN goals. Fourth is the budget. Once applications are reviewed and specific projects have been selected for funding, the mayor releases a proposal for the following year's consolidated plan, which includes an itemized budget for public review and consideration. The public will always be given a minimum of 30 days to complete surveys and provide feedback on the proposed plan. The chief legislative analyst, the mayor, and city council will provide final approval once all feedback, considerations, and adjustments to the proposed budget have been completed. And lastly is implementation. Once the proposed consolidated plan is approved, the city presents the plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, again also known as HUD, for approval. After HUD approves a plan, the city executes contracts and MOUs, and the funded projects can begin. Before I hand it off to my colleague to continue on with the next part of the presentation, I just want to make the announcement again about the closed captioning as well as interpretation options for anyone who may have missed it at the beginning. So closed captioning and Spanish interpretation options are available to participants here in this meeting. For closed captioning in English, you can select the CC symbol at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom menu. For Spanish interpretation, you can select the globe symbol, also found at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom menu, which will take you to the room with the interpreters. Closed captioning in Spanish is also available there. If you do not see the CC or globe symbols in your Zoom menu, please look for it in the sub-menu where it says More with the 3 dots. Los participantes tienen a su disposición subtítulos e interpretación en español. Para subtítulos en inglés, puedes seleccionar el símbolo CC en la parte inferior de la pantalla en el menú de Zoom. Para interpretación en español, puedes seleccionar el símbolo del globo también en la parte inferior de la pantalla, excuse me, que le llevará a la sala con los intérpretes. Allí también están disponibles los subtítulos en español. Si no ve el símbolo CC o el globo en el menú de Zoom, búsquelo en el submenú con la palabra en inglés More, M-O-R-E, con los 3 puntos. I will now hand it off to my colleague who will introduce herself and continue on with the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Madeline Molina, and I'm a management analyst with the Community Investment for Families Department. I'm going to be going over next the funded categories that we fund in our annual plan budget. We have 5 budget categories that we do fund for activities, which are public services, economic development, housing and related programs, public facilities and neighborhood improvement projects, as well as planning and administration. Next slide, please. I'm going to be going over each of those in a bit more detail. The CDBG regulations allow the use of grant funds for a wide range of public service activities such as job training, crime prevention and public safety, childcare, healthcare services, substance abuse services, fair housing counseling, education-related supportive programs, energy conservation, services for senior citizens, and services for homeless persons. As you can tell, CDBG supports a very wide array of services. You may be familiar with some of the city's programs that receive annual funding, such as Family Source Centers or the Domestic Violence and Human Trafficking Shelter Operations. The Emergency Solutions Grant also funds initiatives to combat homelessness, including emergency shelter services and the Homelessness Prevention and Rapid Rehousing Program. Next slide, please. The Con-Plan funds various programs that target economic development as well. Most are operated by community-based organizations that provide technical assistance to businesses and training for micro-enterprise business owners, small businesses, and entrepreneur populations. Programs such as the Healthy Neighborhood Market Network Program and the LA Business Source Centers support offering a wider selection of fresh, nutritious foods and support small and mid-sized local businesses. Next slide, please. Many of the city's ongoing housing-related programs receive funding from CDBG, Home, and HOPWA. For example, the Affordable Housing Managed Pipeline and Program Delivery provides loans for pre-development, acquisition, refinancing, construction, and rehabilitation of affordable rental housing. CDBG funds the Urgent Repair Program, which provides repairs to correct unsafe conditions in rental housing. Next slide, please. Grant funds are used to support various neighborhood improvement and public facility projects as well. Many types of projects can be funded, such as street lighting, park improvements, renovations to senior centers, and projects that in general will serve to revitalize communities, increase public safety, indirectly reduce crime, and enhance economic growth and stability. Next slide, please. And lastly, the annual plan also allocates resources to implement all of the grant programs. This includes but isn't limited to staff who directly implement the programs, disperse the funds, and also ensure that all the various aspects of the funded activities are in compliance with the federal, local, and state laws and regulations. Next slide, please. I'd like to take a moment to go over some wonderful investments that we've been able to do with our CDBG funds across the last 51 years. Since 2025 marks the 51st year of the CDBG program. So CDBG funds have served the city in supporting various housing, social services, public facilities, and economic development programs. Going back to the 80s, the city invested $128,000 in Foundation for Early Childhood, which is California Children's Academy, for their Echo Park childcare program so that they could provide free preschool services to children ages 3 to 5 and supportive services to the families of those same children. In the 90s, the city awarded $350,000 in CDBG dollars to Haven Hills Domestic Violence Transitional Housing. With that money, they were able to rehabilitate shelter buildings, such as adding 26 transitional beds and increase the availability of their services to domestic violence shelter operation programming. The city still works with Haven Hills to this day and provides those same services. Last year, Haven Hills was successfully able to serve about 130 survivors in their emergency and traditional shelters. Leading into the 2000s, the city invested over 300,000 into Good Beginnings early childhood development programs for Head Start and Early Head Start. This type of funding supported early childhood education and social services to help children get ready for success in school. The target population were children who were homeless or in foster care and children with disabilities. In the early 2010s, about $250,000 was awarded to a place called Home to provide year-round after-school services to low-income youth ages 8 through 21. And the Celis King 3 Pool and Gym, which was renamed to the Michelle and Barack Obama Sports Center complex, received $6 million of investment to renovate their gym and pool area. The center is able to provide sports, fitness, and cultural programs still to this day. And that brings us to the 2020s, which we are still halfway through. In recent years, the city has focused CDBG dollars on acquiring property in order to have established facilities that run core programming and provide necessary services. Over $2.5 million were used to acquire the Hope Street Resource Center so that St. Francis Center could expand their current programming space by 50% and offer expanded services to the Hope Street area, including meal services for homeless persons, case management, and other related social and support services for homeless individuals or families seeking housing. Additionally, over $27 million were used to acquire the Mayfair Hotel, which is a building near downtown LA. And that acquisition opened up almost 300 units to use as transitional housing for unhoused persons. And residents who will receive housing there will also receive wraparound supportive services to ensure their continued housing stability. Next slide, please. What you'll see up right now is an estimate of funding that we may receive in the upcoming program year 52, based on an assumption that we will receive level funding as we've received in the current year, program year 51. So, as shown in the chart, as with most years, we estimate the largest allocation to come from CDBG Community Development Block Grant Funds. Currently for this year, the CDBG allocation is 48% of the overall con plan funds that we're receiving. The Home Investment Partnership Program is allocated at about 23%. AIDS is allocated at about 24%. And ESG, or Emergency Solutions Grant, is approximately 4% of the total grant funds that we've received this year. On an annual basis, we do often receive similar or level funding as the prior year. But the final amounts will be determined by what Congress and the President of the United States decide, and will be calculated by HUD for every participating city, county, and state in the whole nation. Next slide, please. Please take note that we, the consolidated planning team with CIFD, are not the city staff who directly implement or monitor the programs that we've been discussing. So As we get close to the Q&A section of the presentation, we might not be able to answer any specific questions about particular funded activities, like how someone could qualify to receive a specific service or a direct benefit. So right here we have a list of departments and their websites where you may be able to find more information about the specific programs that they help to run for the city. Next slide, please. And on an annual basis, the Community Investment for Families Department, which is us, accepts applications for the CDBG program specifically. And those applications are expected to be in alignment with the mayor's priorities for each of the upcoming program year. Currently, applications are open through December 12th. For more information, including application instructions, eligibility criteria, and to see the application itself, you can visit our website, which Kevin, if you can please put in the chat the link to the website. Please note that any technical assistance questions related to the applications should be directed at the very specific email cifd-grantsadmin@lacity.org. We will be moving on to the question and answer portion of the presentation shortly. My colleague Bernard will be reading the questions out from the chat so that we can respond to them. But before we start, Rebecca, would you like to speak on any additional information related to the grant applications?
Yes, for sure. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you to the team for that excellent presentation and the sharing of that information. I do want to make emphasize a point regarding this application process, and Madeline gave some good information as far as how the allocation is typically apportioned across public services, housing related programs, economic development, etc. When it comes to the solicitation of grant applications and you vying for funds, we are specifically asking for applications or project ideas for what we call neighborhood improvements. So we aren't actively soliciting for projects to fund services. We're not actively soliciting applications for projects that have to do with housing and housing related programs, etc. CIFD, this department specifically, is looking and is putting forth an opportunity for neighborhood improvements. Madeline spoke a little bit to this, but it's everything and anything that speaks to improvements, rehab of community centers, work on public parks, things of that nature. So I wanted to make that absolutely clear, that that's exactly what we're soliciting applications for. So with that, I do want to jump into the couple of questions that I think are in the chat. Thank you so much for humoring us on including those in the chat. I'll go ahead and read that first question then. The question is from Martinez. How do I obtain information for assistance with buying a home or developing affordable housing overall? We work very closely with our partners at the Los Angeles Housing Department. They do run very specifically a first-time home buyer program, and they also do work with entities out in the field in the development of affordable housing overall. They run a notification of funding availability, a NOFA. I believe those processes are administered on an annual basis, sometimes more frequently than that. Madeline did flash, or the slide deck did include a site for all the various resources across the city, and there is a website for our partners at the Los Angeles Housing Department. So I would encourage you to go to that website, and they do have various landing pages. I know they have a landing page for their homeownership down payment assistance program. And there should be at least one page there that walks the reader through the various funding opportunities for the developing of affordable housing overall. So we would send you over to our partners at the Housing Department for that. I believe there's another question ahead of that.
Yeah,
From
that's from
yeah, go
Jenny.
ahead, Bernard.
It's from Jenny Ibarra McMahon.
Okay.
He asked, is this similar to the meeting LASA presented to CBOs to partner up to apply to HUD together because their funding was cut?
I'm not quite sure what presentation LASA conducted, Ms. Ibarra McMahon. What I can say as far as what our consolidated plan process is about and what we're soliciting applications for specifically is for neighborhood improvements, not for services, not for operations necessarily. Our public service 15% cap allocation we use exclusively and exhaustively for the three systems that we fund. We fund the Family Source system, that citywide network of centers that helps fund services for low to moderate income families. That's specifically place based. We also help fund the domestic violence and human trafficking centers throughout or services throughout the city, and we also assist in helping to run our aging service delivery system that for the most part exhausts our 15% public service cap allocation. So again, just to be absolutely clear, what we're specifically asking for ideas on funding is for neighborhood improvements, but this meeting in general is to solicit your feedback through this meeting, but also through your participation in the survey on what you think are the needs out there that aren't currently being funded, that would inform our decision makers as far as how they ultimately agree to and approve the allocation of the funding. That's what I would say to your question. Hopefully that's responsive to you.
She did respond and say thank you for the clarification. They just sounded very similar.
No problem.
And those are all the questions we have in the chat.
Sounds good. Just a couple more calls for questions if anybody in the meeting has any of those. Otherwise, we can head on into the last couple of slides of our presentation and we can give you some time back. Let's go ahead to that next slide. So as I mentioned at the top of our presentation, we are also soliciting feedback through this survey instrument regarding what it is that you see are the needs out in the community from your perspective. You could be a resident, you could be a service provider, you could be a stakeholder, otherwise you could work in the city, right? You could play in the city. Those are the kinds of perspectives that we're looking for in that wide spectrum or range of experience. So we want to invite you to go ahead and participate in the survey. You have a QR code there that we encourage you to scan so that it takes you right to the survey instrument. And again, as the slide here says, it's important for you to participate because you are a member of the community, right? In terms of the city of Los Angeles. So your feedback is specifically reviewed. It's aggregated and it's not only communicated to our decision makers to help inform what the community is requesting in terms of comp plan investment in general, but CDBG investment in particular. But it's also a requirement by our funding partner at the Housing and Urban Development Department. They very specifically and very intentionally ask us to articulate and to quantify who we reached out to, who we solicited feedback from, and to show them the proof in that when we get to the point of submitting the action plan for, in this case, the program year 52 action plan. So we very definitely solicit this. We receive this and we communicate with what the community indicates is their need, their prerogative, their insight into what they see out on the field is a need that CDBG or the comp plan in general may be able to fund. So I encourage you, I implore you to go ahead and to fill out our survey. And Madeline, if I'm not mistaken, this survey is also provided or can be provided in various other languages. So we also encourage you to share this QR code far and wide. to your networks, to your affiliates, to your partners out in the field, so that they can spread it far and wide, so that we can get as robust a response as is possible.
Just to interrupt for a second, thank you, Aurelis Placido, for pointing out the survey was not taking responses. We put the wrong link in the chat. We will correct that. Give us just a
And I think we've got one slide left. Is that correct? Our contact page. Yes. So these are very important pieces of information from you. This isn't the only opportunity for you to receive this information or to provide your feedback. You can email us at that cifd.planning@lacity.org email address. There is not only one person at the other end of that email. There is a whole team of people behind that email, and we very specifically respond and acknowledge every email that's sent to that email address. So please feel free to communicate anything that comes up hereafter, any feedback as far as the presentation is concerned, etc. We invite you to submit those through that website. That is also a phone number there. That's my phone number. If you have any feedback or questions for me, that number goes to a live person. It actually goes to me. So that phone number you can also use to communicate your feedback. You can also go to our website at the address listed there too, in terms of inputting or providing your community input. And lastly, we do have a subscription page, a mail list that we've compiled through this subscription opportunity. You can go to our website and sign up for any and all information blasts that come through that we put out there, inviting you to these meetings, inviting you to provide your feedback, etc. We do use our mail list to communicate with you, and we encourage you to invite others to subscribe for all information comp plan related in the near future. So yes, please use any and all these methods to communicate with us regarding the consolidated plan. And I'm scrolling through the chat. I'm not seeing any other questions.
No other questions.
No other questions. So with that, we'll leave just a few more minutes left on the clock, maybe another 5 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and close the meeting. Thank you all so very much again. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your patience and staying on with us. And we do appreciate you taking the time to spend about an hour with us this evening.
So I do see a hand up from Leslie Belt. Um, but Leslie, we'd encourage you to please use the chat for any questions or inquiries you have. Um,
So Leslie did post a question. Um, he said she was reviewing the application. If we were interested in applying, we would need to submit by Friday, correct?
That is correct, Leslie. The deadline for applications is the 12th. And I believe there's a specific time that they're due. I'm not noting that off the top of my head, but it's a very specific cutoff time during the day. Can one of my teammates please confirm the time that it's due on Friday?
if memory serves correct, I believe it was 12 o'clock p.m., so midday.
Okay. Thank you, Lauro. That is correct. That's a noon deadline. Yes, ma'am. 12 p.m. Friday on the 12th. Yes. There's a follow-up I'm seeing. Are faith-based institutions encouraged to apply? Yes, there is no exclusion for faith-based organizations. We do ask go ahead and review the application. We do encourage 501c3s to apply. That's something that we do check for. We check that you're registered with the Secretary of State, that you've got all your documentation in order. But yes, faith-based institutions are encouraged and they are not excluded from applying for a neighborhood improvement grant allocation. Thank you for your question, Ms. Bell. You're welcome. It looks like we are at that 6:24:25 mark. See no other questions. I think we're going to go ahead and conclude. Again, thank you all very much and have a safe evening.